that legally, contractually obligates them to do it.
Who is the them? They are not an organization.
At this time, it would be John's. He
I
sounds like he's,
I will back it personally.
he's gonna.
I mean,
he
that's
would
how
sign it.
committed I am to this program.
If as long as we have the name of a person, then I can ask, I would rather ask the question.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Is that good with everybody else?
Because we're building the wall regardless.
The wall is built,
Right.
and this will go up when it's ready. I mean, it could, I mean, I don't want to, push it off, but we could wait a year for the plaque to be up. That is not our goal. Our goal is to have it up for this fall for, I think, the second game. So there is a timeline with that, but I don't want to go against what we had talked about as far as raising funds, because once you do it once, you will do it for a lot of other things. And I can't recommend that to you. You can do what you want, but I will not recommend that to you. So I could work on an agreement, and I'll talk with Rob about that.
Okay, yeah, and the sooner we, and the other detail then would be, is the agreement in the high school's name or in the school district's name?
Yep, that way the checks come in, our tax deductible, I understand that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're already set up for that.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay.
Do you have some, have you collected some of the money? I know you gave a list. I mean, it seemed like it was around $7,000 maybe.
We're at around, right now, committed, definitely committed, we're at 7,000 with another 1,000 to 2,000. So we're close to 9,000.
But you haven't actually collected any
Three.
checks because,
You'll have one check here tonight
3,000.
for 3,000.
Oh, okay.
You're giving that to me tonight.
oh, okay, all right, that's great.
As long as it doesn't get put in somebody's pocket.
At the end of the day, I think we're all going to be good, because the thing is, I think this is a big support, but I want to make sure we stay within the parameters we started with on this whole project.
Understand. Okay. The other thing Dr. Pavard alluded to a little earlier, excess funds. And I talked to 3 or 4 of the people that are involved with me in the background here, that first of all, there'd be some money left in there to set aside for the maintenance of that and adding of any names. Unfortunately, I feel I'm not lying to say that there will be names added to that in the future. The balance could be set up in some type of a scholarship to help support children of members killed while on duty. And it's funny, I just looked at one of them from the other member of the Pennridge School District here that we lost in Iraq in 2008. Sean, I think it's Such, S-U-Z-C-H. He has a small daughter. Meneer was single, so there was no young children involved. But this would be something, if we do have the money, to look forward to helping with an education for this young daughter. The only other thing, and I think you may have alluded to it in the other things here, that one of the questions that was asked of me, are the names going to be made public somewhere of those who did make the donation? And I think you said it's going to be in the football programs or something like that for some of the other sponsors. Would this be the same for this?
I don't know why we wouldn't do that. We would just have it a separate area, because this is a separate part of the fundraising. So for the flagpole memorial, we would have a list of people that just like the green and white club.
Very good. I think that's what I had to present to you. Any questions on me?
I have a question. So if you have, hopefully, you'll have excess money and then set it up for a scholarship, but who would be in charge of that?
That we would turn over to the school.
Okay.
And I think that would be something that would be set up through, who it would go through here at the school, I really don't know.
Okay.
But I think once that happens, it can't be the class of '64 who got all this stuff kicked out last October at our 50th class reunion. It should be someone here that is, sets up a formal program, just like you do at every year graduation. I know this club gives so much to the student for this, or this student's going into education, so there's money for that.
I have spoken to John. There are a lot of individuals who have given money to the high school for scholarships. So what they do is they work with the high school principal and the guidance department say, what are the parameters that you want for this? I mean, you remember Bruce Fishman who worked here, there was a fund set up that they give out as long as they have funds for someone going into education. So they would work the same sort of thing, and they could dictate, you know, that it's going to be X number of dollars or a percentage of what they have collected. So they would work with the high school, and I think that's a great idea. And if it's going to be dedicated to someone who's, you know, has a relative or, you know, however you want to do it, that served in the military or was, killed in action, and there's a lot of criteria you can put in there, so, but they can work with them. But we have other scholarships like that, but I think that's a great idea to keep it living.
Well, I think he was saying a scholarship money for children of those who were killed.
That's
Not
one
just
idea. I'm not, I'm not limiting it to that. It could also be like a $500 one-time gift to a person who's going into the military.
It could be that.
As I said to Dr. Bavard, I said, well, maybe it's those who go to the military academy. He says, no, we're already paying for those.
We all write those checks every April 15th.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
your
doing
time,
that.
and I appreciate your support of the idea. And Dr. Bavard, I'll hand this to you.
We'll take it now.
Okay.
Your name is Dr. Ramsel.
Pennridge School.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. The Build It for What campaign, do you have any info?
I don't have an update from Jeff. I had asked him to be here. Actually, I thought he would be here, so there must be something coming up. It's just not like him not to be here for that. So, and same with number 3. The only update I do have is that they are finishing the individual pictures and I guess, approximate price for the equipment that's going to go into the weight room. And it's approximate because obviously we're going to bid it out. They can spec it exactly what they want. We're going to bid it out because a lot of that is all the same piece of equipment. So he has that. Once he has it, then we're going to start going out and trying to find different businesses or individuals that are willing to donate the equipment. So that's my update for 3 as well.
Number 4 is outreach to board members and district employees, right?
So, yeah, I have a draft of a letter that I'll share with Mr. Schmidt and Dr. Bavard, and then hopefully we can get those out in the next week.
Okay. And outreach to businesses and alumni.
We talked about the outreach to business. That's going to hinge in large part on what we can do with the chambers of commerce and alumni. Quite frankly, I have not done anything regarding that Harris Connect group. They have not contacted me about updating our alumni directory.
They haven't?
They have not.
Okay. First, we were working on that list for a contact for each year.
Correct.
How's that?
I turned that over to Ms. DeBona because we have all the classes. We put that list down with a contact person, so let me check on the status. I did not do that for tonight. Sorry, that's my fault.
Suggestion, crowdfunding. This is something in social media that has been successful. I don't know whether, people will generally, sometimes you get it from people who have no direct relationship with, but if it's considered to be worthy of their consideration, sometimes people have been really surprised by the kind of response that you can get. I don't know if it's worth, I don't think it takes very much to put some kind of a crowdfunding effort out there, but it's found money if in fact we get any support from it.
Dave, you're exactly right, and that's my thought with John. When that Intel story comes out, there's going to be people all over the county who all want to contribute, and that would be a great way for them to go online, make their contribution, and be done with it. So I'm going to make sure that's set up before that story hits.
It could be from all over the country.
It could be.
It could be.
It could
This
be.
is something that's totally out of your control, and you just, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
stuff starts to happen.
Yeah,
It's-
That's
it
a
can be
great
really-
idea.
Okay, advertising agreement status, I guess, we covered that.
We covered that. We have-
Memorial wall covered, and then we just had an update on the accounting for the funds, of course, if you want to.
My numbers are now wrong, so what I'll do is based on the new money that's come in, I will make sure that I update this so that at the board meeting on Monday night, when the minutes are given, you can at least give the true totals, because obviously I now have 3,000 for the flagpole memorial, and the paver number is over close to 5,000, so we'll get that. I know advertising agreements is 73.50, and then I'll hopefully be able to catch up with Jeff, so I'll get this updated before you get to the board meeting, but even the unupdated one, 61,650 commitments, and total collected is 28,650, and that, obviously, those numbers are going up, so. And you do have cost of the district, and that's basically just for some letterhead. Joe, you remember?
That was just the initial
Right.
flyer that we
Initial
did.
flyer, so it's all we spent so far,
So we spent $80 so
$80
far, out of our 500.
out of your 500.
Okay.
And this 61,000, I mean, I know we don't have a definite number, but I think at the last meeting that Jeff had brought for the Build It for Bud, didn't we say it was roughly at 85%?
Yeah, I don't have anything in there for
This is
that one yet until,
accounting for
yeah,
that at all.
not at all, because he has commitments, but I'm not listing anything until actually he gets his $100,000, because I know he already has, he was close to 85% last time. So once that happens, then that'll be $100,000 we added for commitments, and then collected, I think he's almost at the amount he needs for the first year, which is close to $10,000.
Okay.
So it's got to all be done first, so I can put it on the list too.
Okay.
We do have a number of recurring payments that are coming in through PayPal for him. So $10 or $20 a month from 3 or 4 or 5 different people.
So there's just money coming in
Right.
at different times?
Mhm.
Okay. But it's all accounted for?
Correct.
Okay.
And into the separate accounts too, so we know how each one of those divisions is performing.
Can I just, so on Monday, we're going to approve the 2 advertising agreements. And then if we, I mean, so that the memorial can go forward, can we have Rob draw up an agreement so that, I mean, would we have to vote on that? And then, so then he could go forward and order the,
Yes, so if I can get him to do that, where he makes a commitment, and John Snyder is going to be the bank for the balance, just for the plaques that are going to go on the memorial wall. If we have it, I'll try to get that by Monday night, so that way we can move forward. But, you know, I know they need to get it ordered, and I just want to make sure that the board, we follow the original commitment that we had talked about. So I'll try to get that for Monday night as well.
Okay. That's all that we have on our agenda. Anyone have any questions, comments? Any comments from the public?
we're going to do that at the end of personnel?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me. We have personnel next, and then we'll do comments. Thank you.
I don't particularly care for that layout. Sure. Is that on the internet? Was it? Is it posted?
It's all on me.
I just want to know, if I don't have a question for me, I'm going to leave. So obviously you could be here.
I was going to ask what the $80 is. But see, now it's not official. I mean, it's just you and me. You see what I'm saying? So as far as I'm concerned, we're going to
They know,
wait.
they know what it is.
Okay, okay. They know what it is.
Yep.
Are we ready to we'll call
I
the
can compare
personnel
stories.
committee meeting to order? So on the agenda, we're going to start with some revisions to job descriptions. And to you, right? You're going to start that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Agomo. Ms. McHale had sent all of you these updated job descriptions, if the board will remember, because we've had some changes at the cabinet level. And just based on the fact I've been studying the operations now since my second school year, I realized it was a perfect time to make some changes. So I think they're pretty clear to you. If something is no longer going to be there, it's crossed out. If something was added, we included that in a different color. So, for example, this Director of Administration is very similar to the job that Dr. Brevard had. Main difference is this person will supervise the principals, whereas before the position supervised the curriculum supervisors. The change on that next page is just changing strategic plan to comprehensive plan. And the policy committee that Dr. Brevard has been the liaison to is now going to be moved over to Dr. Phillips. So that's why that is crossed out on that one. Any question on that particular job description?
Who supervised the principals before?
I did with the assistance of Dr. Brevard. Now it's going to be kind of the reverse, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And I didn't see the Director of Pupil Services in here, so is that job description being changed as well to add the policy?
That'll be coming, yes.
Okay.
I didn't have that one with me, but that, yes, we had to
Yeah, that's
change
what
it.
that's one of my questions was about the policy, because I didn't see where it went.
You are correct. It didn't disappear. One we'd probably like for it to disappear, but that's an important one we need to have. Okay, any other questions on that one? Okay, let's see, business administrator. The change here is the director of information is now back under the business administrator. If you remember last year, we tried moving it over to under Dr. Scheid directly, but now it's back here. The student registration and child accounting has been moved to pupil services. So that's why you see that crossed out at the bottom. Other changes here have to do with no longer dealing with workers' comp or the sale of, workers' comp and right to knows. Those now are moving over to HR. So it's kind of like a checkerboard. I know this is a little confusing, but they do all match up in the end. So those are the main changes to the business administrator's job description. So there are 5 directors that directly report to the business administrator. That's the assistant business manager, the director of operations, director of transportation, director of nutritional services, and director of information technology. Questions on this one?
I have a question about the assistant business administrator, or assistant business manager. Do we have one of those then?
That's Mrs. Grabowski.
Oh,
That's who that is. And she actually has other people that she supervises, such as payroll. They're her direct reports.
so you're just changing, you're just changing the words from staff to assistant business manager? There's not.
Right, that really wasn't, I don't think that was really correct. It was like a couple steps. It really is the assistant business manager who supervises directly, say, accounts payable and payroll. So now I think it more clearly reflects who directly reports to the business administrator, 5 directors, and the confidential secretary.
Okay, thank you. I just wondering if you're planning on bringing in like an assistant
Yeah.
that did everything, that's just, that's good.
Okay, the next one, I don't know if you have the final change of the title. Really, the order for this is Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, because if you think about it, you have to have the curriculum first before you know what you're instructing, before you know what you're assessing. So that makes this person the Director of CIA, once we have it that way. But that's your final thing that you'll be voting on Monday night will be Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. So as I said earlier, Dr. Brevard used to supervise the subject area supervisors. That is now moving over to Dr. Scheid. And you see there the Director of Technology off of there. And they are really the main changes, other than if you remember, we changed the name of the Academic Performance Committee to the Curriculum Committee, so that's where it's reflected in number 5, just to be sure we're consistent, not to confuse anyone. We already have, as you remember, a media and technology integrator, that's Mr. Brockman. We talked about adding another .8 integrator due to the fact that the one-to-one at the high school is expanding now to 3 grade levels. So that's why that is plural under supervises and evaluates media and technology integrators. That's going to be, if you recall, with your final approval of the budget, a teacher on special assignment.
Where did you jump to? What section is that?
I'm sorry, that's under supervises and evaluates. See how it says there's an S on the end of integrator now? It's integrators. Questions? Okay, then on the human resources, Ms. McHale's position, the title, as you know, has changed there. And with the board's feedback, you'll see that some of the things are crossed out there as to the actual supervision and evaluation because the board wanted to wait until Ms. McHale got on board for her to take a look at the department and see if she felt it needed to be restructured in a certain way. Because as you know, we do have some open positions right now where we have substitutes filling in. So I believe, Ms. McHale, you said within a couple of months, you should be able to have that ready for me and the board.
I'm hoping to have that for the next personnel meeting, a new structure for the human resource department that I can propose to the board for their approval.
So that is why we have, right now, you see under supervises and evaluates, just as human resource staff. We want to be specific because we don't have the specifics for you. And as I said, we did move the workers' comp, that's number 16, and number 15, the right to know, both over to the HR department.
Oh, I'm sorry. So manage, what does that mean to you? Does that mean you're going to shop for it? Does that mean you're going to manage the right to know or return to work programs and just the daily claims activities? Or I'm just curious because that's always been in this district. I'm glad it moved. I think it belongs, workers' comp should be in HR, whatever business you're
I
in.
definitely agree.
But I just don't know, in businesses that employ that style, they still have someone else buy it, which is a problem. Because the buyer many times doesn't know what you want, what are looking for or need, or the issues. So is that in concert then with the new business administrator? I'm not trying to get off the track here, but if you're going to manage it, like, if someone hands you something to manage that you don't like, it could be different, it could be better suited for what you're trying to accomplish. That's all I'm saying. You'll play an active role in, buying, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's
right.
different products,
Exactly.
there's different services, value-added things that you could get that might help you in your job.
Right, and
I
shopping
don't
for the
know.
right vendor, so to speak.
Right, vendor. I don't think the right to work, return to work program ever came into play here yet. And we've been waiting on that for years, since I've been here.
Well, I actually participated in the annual review of our workers' comp claims. Honestly, they weren't that bad.
With the school claims union.
Right, the school claims. I think we were around 48 claims, maybe one was significant. So it wasn't too bad.
Yep.
Another thing I envision is that being tied to benefits. People are going out on leaves, that person would also, know who's on leave, tie that in with workers' comp. I think that all needs to be under
Sure.
the heading of one person's job
Injuries
description.
comp is primary, as you know, so all
Yes.
that keeps it out of the other place. I don't want to go off into the weeds here, but just if managing, what does managing mean? As long as you're still not, I don't think you should be shut out of the buying process, that's what I'm saying.
I would welcome that, actually, and I think it also needs to be tied into the safety program as well.
No doubt about it.
Did talk to Jeff Loeffler a little bit about that, to bring him into workers' comp as well.
Because you'll be able to say, because you're new here and your qualifications and your experience, we've never had that here before. I mean, Kathy did what she could.
I think Kathy was achieving the 5% that we're.
I mean, as far as, keeping costs down, letting doctors know we have returned to work, so they don't say go home for 2 weeks and come back, things like that.
Oh, and that's definitely significant, keeping after them.
So, okay, so, sorry, too far off into the bushes, but as long as
No,
you're
no.
being fine, I think that's important.
Thank you.
And placing the right to know is that necessarily the best place to have it in the human resources? I'm thinking that the right to knows are typically in terms of a lot of dollars and cents and where things are done. Is that something that would be better suited under the business administrator or whatever the new title that we're going to be referring to that as in the business administrator's office, or?
Well, I've seen both models. If you recall, we had it over in HR, and then it went to business, and now we're moving it back. In really an effort to balance things. We can try it again, like, you know, with Ms. McHale being new, we'll see how it goes. That was one of the reasons we were talking about maybe restructuring some of the support services for that department because of the new laws, legislation that we have, and then also this responsibility as well. Obviously, the different departments have to work hand in hand depending on what the right to know is. It could really affect any of our departments depending on who's requesting what.
And we need to know what, if any, Sean's, Mr. Goldberg, his experience with it also.
Right.
So this just moves it over there, but eventually, and maybe possibly, it could have to be its own position. It almost might be sometimes, is it not? Is that too much? Or is our volume down now? Or intake of right now?
It's been down. I think it's manageable right now, but again, that can go in waves, you don't know.
I think it depends on, you know, each particular district and how much, as you're saying, influx you get of right to know requests and how cumbersome it becomes if time consuming.
So with this job description, you could set it up within your, you can, inside this description, you could have your staff set up so it addresses that.
Yes.
And that's what we're-
Until, you know, unless, again, the volumes get too high, I would ask respectfully that I could come back to the board and revisit that.
The
Seems to
goal
me-
was, I'm sorry.
Just a comment, it seems to me that the right to know requests are kind of a function of the degree to which our citizenry trusts us as administrators and watchdogs. And to the extent that we have almost entirely new leadership in the district now compared to the way it was 3 or 4 years ago. And some of the right to know requests that I have been aware of are relating to things that happened some time ago, not necessarily to current affairs. And I don't know if there's some way that we can help to make these requests more current, that something can be done still about it instead of things that are really about things at this point that there's really not much that can be done about it, even if there's some investigation or something and we find out that it's basically over and done. And it just seems like, to the extent that we are currently dealing with things really that happened some time ago, that is almost beyond our capability and control to do anything about it.
Well, none of the ones we've had recently fall into that category, Mr. Thompson, so maybe we have crossed a bridge. I'm hoping that is the case. But anyway, the attempt was, just for the board to know, is to try to balance these positions more fairly, so that everyone has about, you know, you can't have it exactly equal, but trying to make it as fair for everybody as possible. So I think then, that, Ms. McHale, you're going to talk about these other job descriptions.
Okay, so with the Director of Nutritional Services, on page 2, there's one change, and it's the addition of the Management Oversight and Services to the Upper Bucks County Vo-Tech School cafeteria.
Can you speak up a little bit, ma'am?
Pardon?
Can you speak up? It's difficult to hear.
On page 2 of the Director of Nutritional Services, the only addition to that job description is provides management oversight and services to the Upper Bucks County Vocational Technical School cafeteria.
Is the VOTech school paying a fee for that?
They are.
Yeah, that's-
I believe they are.
They are. Yes.
And that'll just go into, because the nutritional services has its own budget, so that'll just go into that budget?
I believe that's how it was set up. I have to double check that.
We would have to check that with Mrs. Johnson. The database administrator position will assume the responsibilities for the coordination and implementation of student testing program and related activities, analyzing, interpreting student testing data, providing information to others, and implementing and maintaining student testing and assessment services within established guidelines and standards. That would be Ms. Miller's position. And that is sort of a segue into the next position, the level 2 computer technology or tech. There is a correction on the title. It should be level 2 instead of level 1. And that individual, Danielle, will be assuming more responsibility due to Diane Miller taking on the data analysis responsibility. So essentially, she's going to work with the one-on-one program and other technology-related items at the high school, maintain the inventory of all one-on-one laptops, manage all the collection at the end of the school year and distribution at the start of the school year of all the laptops, work on the daily schedule of technical support, and again, participate in the planning and design of the district's one-to-one program. And that would be Danielle's position. Are there any questions on those? We'll be asking the board on Monday night to approve the position of the router dispatcher. That is a new job description. If you have any additional questions before Monday night, please feel free to contact myself or Kathy Johnson. Basically, because of the increase in the transportation requirements, the frequent changes in routing, homeless transportation, special needs children, as well as the transportation to out-of-district placements. This will free up some time for the president, assistant, the director, and the assistant director to investigate routes, parental concerns. They'll actually be out there driving the routes to determine distance and so forth. Are there any questions on that?
So this is a new position?
This is a
Totally
new
new?
position. It is budgeted.
Right, this was in that decision brief that I had given to the board. If you remember, I think it was the company Transpar that we brought in and had them do an analysis. This is something they said that they felt we needed. They felt we were, understaffed in that department. So last year I told them we couldn't add any more positions, but what they did was they got a little creative with their budget and they cut some areas in order to be able to fund this position. So yes, it is in the budget. If you approve our final budget on the 22nd, we are in good shape. It'll be in there.
Dr. Radigan, I believe there are over 100 buses on the road. Is that correct? I believe
Sounds
when I
about
asked.
right.
Yeah, I was asking today just to educate myself on how many vehicles we actually have out there, and Mr. Rabb said there are actually over 100 right now. So that's very significant. That's a large fleet.
Covering 94 square miles.
Yes.
That is the last.
Very good, then that's the last agenda item, so any public comment?
Yeah. I hope so. You'll have to bear with me if I one?
Yeah.
All right, you have to realize this is for 3 meetings, not 1, in terms of my questions. Will there be an organization chart with all these new changes and moves around issued to the public so we know who does what and reports to whom?
Yes, once the board reviews that, that will be public.
And when do you think that'll be?
Shortly, in the next month or so.
Oh, thank you. What was the $80 expense cited for the fundraising? What generated that cost?
I believe it was for the printing of brochures.
How many brochures did you have?
That was Mr. Ferry.
Pardon me?
Mr. Ferry took care of the printing, we don't have that answer, we would be able to provide it.
No, he told me you'd be able to do that, that's why he left.
I think it's approximately 100 because most people actually read the brochure online. But some people wanted to have that, but that's, I think, if I remember my original number, because the cost was cut because we had people that volunteered to do the design and everything else. So that's what I think is the total number. But no one's actually been asking for them to go online.
There are 100
There were.
brochures? Okay. I have a suggestion, and of course, it's just a suggestion, but Mr. Snyder has offered that, you know, he would like for us not to have to pay for the plaques and things that, you know, he has proposed. Your approach appears to be fronting the money for him, and then if we don't get the money, we ask him to make up the difference. First of all, I didn't hear any kind of a timeline, like, okay, if we haven't collected the money in a year, then you have to do it. Because if I were him, I'd say, well, wait, give me another 5 years and let's see what happens. So I think you need to put a deadline as to when the money is due, if you take that approach, so that it's clear to everybody, okay, you know, we're at fruition now, we're down 2,000, we need a check. What I would prefer for you all to do is to say, right now, we're down $6,000, you write us a check for $6,000, and as it comes in, we will reimburse you. And then that way he stays motivated, and I don't end up paying for it, and you don't become a collection agency. If he's good for the money, he's good for the money. If he's not, let's find out right now, not a year from now when we're sitting there holding the bag with $3,000. That's just, you know, I think you should get more than a commitment from him, you should get the cash. He said he was good for it. I think that's about all I have that's, are you Mrs. McHale? Is that correct? I noticed like up here at the personnel, usually the administrator's name is listed with the committee members' names, so I think it would just be helpful since you're new.
We'll list it, thank you.
What's that?
We'll get it on the next agenda, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Meeting adjourned.